Millions of Californians have already voted, and no one in California knows the data behind the vote better than our next guest. Paul Mitchell is the vice president of Political Data Inc. He joins us now live. Good to have you on election eve. Let's just start with the basics. How many Californians have voted thus far? What trends are you seeing? And then for some context, how does this compare to 2020?
Well, we're seeing that we just crested 8 million ballots that have been returned. That means that those ballots have gone back to county registrars. They've processed them. They've validated the signatures. And that's not close to where we were in 2020 when we were at about 13 million at the same point. But of course, 2020 election was very unique. We were in the middle of COVID. People didn't want to go vote in person, so they were really voting by mail very heavily. The trends have been largely that the early vote by mail has been homeowners. That means they're older, they can be whiter, more conservative, and that's what we've seen kind of historically. In the last day, the ballots we've gotten in today, actually the age groups are kind of getting closer matched. So instead of a 4-to-1 advantage of seniors over young people, they're both turning in their ballots today at about the same rate. So we're expecting that's a sign that as we get towards tomorrow, all the in-person, all the ballots that are mailed as of this weekend, today and tomorrow, we'll get to about 75% turnout, and one that's pretty regular for a big presidential election like this.
75% turnout is pretty good. What can we read into the demographics showing up? That's what you're so good at, because we're really focused on these congressional races here in Southern California. There's 5 of them that are considered toss-ups. What are you reading into that?
Well, so first off, like I was saying, a lot of the early vote is homeowners. And so you see really high turnout already in places like those Orange County competitive congressional districts. In those competitive congressional districts in Orange County, we might be at 55, 60% turnout by tomorrow just in the early vote before people actually start voting in person. Among seniors, over 2/3 of the seniors in those Orange County districts have already voted. But contrast that with the Central Valley. In the Central Valley, we have a lot lower early turnout rates right now, and we don't expect them to reach those 75% numbers in total turnout. When you have lower turnout in California, you end up having fewer votes from Latinos, renters, and younger voters. That also includes lower turnout from independently registered voters. And so as we go towards Election Day and as we see who casts ballots tomorrow, that's really where we're going to be looking. And for Democrats in particular who are trying to get these voters through, it's really about, those younger voters. For Republicans, it's about the Republican registered voters and key independent voters who have previously either been Republican, voted Republican, or even donated to Republicans.
So we know about 40 million Californians. How many are eligible to vote? I know you said 8 million ballots have already been returned, but put that into perspective.
So we have 22 million registered voters, and I think most projections are we're going to be about 16.5 to 17 million ballots cast by voters. That 75% turnout rate is really high, and in raw numbers, it's really huge because if we go back, a decade ago, we were maybe at 17 million voters because we had less aggressive registration processes. Right now, when people register, it's a lot easier to register. When you move, when people move, the counties automatically update your registration. So the voter registration file in California is more complete, and more people have the correct address and a good registration in California than ever before.
And talk about that, because there's a lot of people that are going to be saying, why does it take so long to count the ballots in California? A big reason is we try to make it easier to vote in California, but because of that, it takes longer. Explain some of that.
Yeah, so we provide multiple methods for people to return their ballots. They can mail them in, they can go and do it at a drop box, they can go to a local vote center, they can vote for an entire month, including Election Day, which is always the most popular day to vote. And if we look right now, we say, okay, we're at 8 million ballots cast, maybe half of our total turnout. In North Carolina this weekend, they were already at 66% voter turnout. That means they had all today and tomorrow to process those ballots, get all of that ready to tabulate and report on Election Day. In California, these county registrars are going to go through all the early vote that they have, all the in-day voting, and probably still have 5 million ballots or more to still signature verify and process when you count all the ballots that are going to be dropped off or mailed in tomorrow. So it's a huge process in California. I think we'll be a little bit surprised that a lot of counties are going to speed up, particularly in places like LA County and Orange County, where we have some of these critical congressional races.
Hard to imagine being slower than it was the last time around. We were waiting 3 weeks in some cases. Paul Mitchell, thanks for all of your insight on this. You're the best.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
A little